This is Flask Stack Full Stack in Python tutorial. Uh, it's lightweight and quick responsive APIs. The implementation is simple and there is a decent amount of documentation available over the internet for the reference. The architecture is simple. For the front end, you will be using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can also prefer Bootstrap or Tailwind. And as a core, you will be using Python. The main two modules are Flask and MySQL connector. Flask is for front-end connection and MySQL is for backend connection. And for backend, you can use MySQL. If you want, you could also prefer with SQL Plus or MongoDB, any other databases. So from in the front end, there will be a form tag which on clicking a submit will pass values to the Python using Flask, and the values are stored in a temporary Python variable. Those values will be injected to the MySQL database with the help of MySQL connector with the appropriate query that injects into the database. To do the reverse process, the fetch the values from the database, we use same MySQL connector and the select command to fetch the values and store it in a local Python variable, and use Flask render template function and push it to the front end. To install the dependencies for this project, you need a backend MySQL. You could check this website and download the community version. And for environment, I would prefer Anaconda environment, or you can also use Python environment. In this case, we are using Anaconda environment. At first, after installing, open your Anaconda prompt and create an Anaconda environment. The commands are given in the video and in the GitHub posted below. And we have to mention the Python version. We will be using 3.10 as it supports MySQL connector and the Flask. Go with the installation process, and once the installation is complete, activate the environment. Once you have activated the environment, create a new folder. You could use CLI commands to make it, or you could use the GUI to create a new working directory. Once you have created the working directory, we need to pip install some of the modules. In our case, it will be Flask. The command will be like pip install Flask. Once the Flask is executed, we need to install the MySQL connector module and go with the same pip install command. Once the Anaconda environment setup is done, move to the MySQL command line CLI. Enter your password, which you have mentioned while creating the MySQL workbench stuff. Here, create a database. In our case, we'll be using my database, and activate it by using use and your database name. Create a simple schema or a table. Here we will be using an employee details which has ID, name, age and salary. Describe it to look the schema of your table. After the schema creation, go to your favorite IDE and open the folder which we have created before, and create a new subfolder called templates, and inside the subfolder create a HTML file called index.html. Create a general structure in it and put a form tag. In this form tag, it maps to a submit and the method is post. You could see there are name, age and salary as input fields, and there's a submit button. When you click that, these details will be moved. Once you have created this, get out of your subfolder templates and create a app.py file. Inside app, we have to import the required modules. First, import Flask and request and render templates from the main directory Flask. Create an instance of the Flask called app, and now create the map function. This will be rendered upon calling the main function. This is the main function which we'll be using. When this main function is run, the form will be the index.html will be rendered. Run the Python file. In your terminal there will be a local server deployed. Copy this link and put it in your browser, or control and click it. A browser will HTML instance will be opened on your web browser. Now let's handle the submit function, which is passed from the HTML file. Initially, let's create a root and a function named submit. Here you could see the action is submit and the method is post. In the root, you have to keep the same name and the method same. The name fields are name, age and salary. That values can be received using the request function, request module, and request.form and the same name which here mentioned in the HTML file. Now for pushing it in the backend, we have to import the MySQL connector module. After importing the module, create a try and except block. This try and except block has the following details. There is a connection, CONN, and in that there is host, user, password and database. Database will be your database which you have created in the MySQL, and password is the one you have entered. And make an instance of your cursor and the query which you want to perform the operation. Here it's an insert operation into the SQL table. Use cursor.execute method to execute the queries, and commit to push the changes from the buffer, and close the instances of the cursors you have created. Initialize the except method to handle any errors which you will be facing. Save this file and run the Flask module. You could see the HTML file rendered on your browser. Enter your name, age and salary. Upon clicking submit, you could see the data inserted successful message. To verify this, go to your SQL CLI and select the values from the table. The values has been successfully injected into your table. Now we have to display the values from the MySQL database. For that, create another HTML file in your templates folder. This is where you put all your HTML files, and there's another folder called static where you put your CSS and images. Create a following HTML file called display.html and put these structure in it. This file has a form tag which takes name as a text, and upon clicking it will be mapping it to fetch underscore data function with the method post. And below the form you could see a simple if condition. It basically means if the data is present, print these values. These values are in the form of dictionary. We will be seeing this in a Flask. To move to the display.html file, we will be creating a button which maps to the display.html file from the index.html file. It's basically an anchor tag, but we are doing it with the Flask for movement from one page to another. Map it to another underscore page and create it in your Flask. Go to your app.py and create a app root called another underscore page. Here render the display.html file. We can see that the another.html file has been rendered. Below that, create another root in the display.html file to fetch these data. When the fetch data button is being clicked, this function will be activated. The first thing it takes is name from the fetch underscore data. Here we are creating a try block. Inside we are initializing a SQL connection and a cursor instance and a query which basically says select the name, age and salary from the database, from the table where the name is, which we have given in the HTML. We are basically matching the name and getting the values. Use the execute function and the result to get these values. Say if you find any data, store it in a data dictionary, and if the dictionary is present, it will be rendered in this form tag, in this condition which we have given below the form tag. If it isn't present, it will be giving a hard-coded message. Use exception to handle any sort of errors here. Save the file and run your Flask file. Make sure to enter the passwords, and upon clicking, enter name, age and salary. When you click submit, the value will be stored in the backend. Now click go to another page, and here type the name which you want to extract the details. We have clicked Brock and the details has been displayed here. The following codes are present in the GitHub repository, and the link is given in the description. For queries, post it on comments or in GitHub.